come across this before. It's kind of what needs to happen for the government to pay that pledge of 80% of salaries up to £2,500 a month. You basically have to be put on unpaid leave, which furloughing is effectively a stupid term for unpaid leave. And yeah, but there you go. So Newcastle first to announce that formally. Then things got interesting with the Rugby League World Cup announcing a new schedule of the build-up. It kind of talking about delaying putting tickets on sale, giving the dates of when all the fixtures will be and those things. That's all been delayed. So that was announced on the 27th. And more importantly, it was announced that 20,021 tickets will be made available for key workers for free as a thanks for their efforts during this pandemic. So that's a huge good step by the Rugby League World Cup and John Dutton and his team. So well done to those guys for doing that there, and hopefully all of those free tickets will be snapped up and they'll consider making more available for those key workers who've worked so hard to make sure we have, healthcare provided, so we have food in the supermarkets, and we have deliveries turning up at our doors and things like that. So well done to everyone. And then New Zealand Warriors players, they deserve a special shout out as well, because they dipped into their own pockets to help the club's staff keep their jobs during the coronavirus pandemic. The leadership group of the Warriors decided last week that they would donate some of their own money to the club to save as many jobs as possible while the NRL is suspended. So obviously the playing staff, whilst not multi-millionaires, earn significantly more than, say, some of the office staff and that sort of stuff. So well done to those guys for deciding to do that. I think that's fantastic. Why did I get the longest day again? It was like this last week. Sarah, do you want to give us what happened on the 28th of March as we skip forward a couple of days?
Yep, so on the 28th of March, Featherstone confirmed they'd placed most of their staff, including players and coaches, on furlough leave. The Championship Club have written to employees to inform them of the move, with the majority of clubs expected to follow suit in the coming days. Featherstone's CEO David Longer said, "It's still very unclear. We have no end date to this situation, and it's a matter of restructuring the business and cash flow so we survive the next 3 months without any gate receipts or ancillary income. The government and the RFL need to be recognised in what has been pledged so far. They've been very supportive throughout this pandemic, and we thank you for providing much needed assistance and finance so we can maintain employment for so many people."
So David talks about 3 months without any gate receipts, so kind of that's a more certain statement that we're not going to get things in like Magic Weekend and the Summer Bash in May. We jump forward to the 30th of March today as we record, and the NRL competition will deliver a $40 million rescue package to the 16 clubs to help them cope with the pandemic. Each team will receive $2.5 million from the ARL Commission, announced by Chairman Peter Vlandis and NRL CEO Todd Greenwood via a phone hookup with the clubs. So it must be great for the NRL to have that money to hand out to the clubs. I think that's something we don't have, sadly, that our governing body could do. So fantastic news for the NRL clubs, as some of them were starting to sweat a bit, I believe.
Yeah, positive.
Just one main piece of other news, wasn't there, Tim, to sort of talk about, and it's a sad piece of news, unfortunately.
It is, yeah. Frank Myler, the last captain to lead Great Britain to victory over Australia in a Rugby League Ashes tour, has died aged 81. The Lions lost just one match on their 1970 tour of Australia and New Zealand with Myler as skipper. He was a Challenge Cup winner with Widnes Vikings as a player and went on to coach his hometown club after hanging up his boots. He also had a player coach stint with Rochdale and a spell at St Helens. And we had one fan view on this one.
Yeah, Pob the Viking, Paul O'Brien, big Widnes fan who joined us on the show last week, got in touch to say, "It's sad to hear of the passing of the Rugby League legend Frank Myler. Frank Myler, the last captain to lead Great Britain to victory over Australia in a Rugby League Ashes tour." He kind of has reiterated the story. So what he said is a Challenge Cup winner with Widnes as a player and went on to coach the club after hanging up his boots. So what Paul has done there is copied and pasted the news story. But yeah, obviously the whole Vikings community are really sad. Paul, I think, drove past the ground and they had on a big display there an RIP message during the week. So obviously, our condolences go out to Frank Myler's family and close friends.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, this is going to be our shortest ever match review section, guys. Can you believe it? We're finally at a point where we've got no actual matches to talk about, so we're talking about games from the past. And we had 2 people get in touch about games from the past that they've watched in the last week. I actually don't believe this first one watched a game in the last week, but Sarah, it might be one for you to talk about a little bit, because Always in Our Shadow got in touch to talk about when Hull KR played Hull FC, and their only comment was 20-0 and they fucked it up. So, Sarah...
They probably did, because it was the anniversary of it the other day.
Yeah, it was a Good Friday derby, wasn't it, or an Easter derby game? So, I mean, when was that game? It was...
was it
2018 or 2017?
I feel like it might have been a bit earlier than that. I think
say 16.
It was certainly during... Right, well, let's think back. This year it would have been at Rovers, wouldn't it? So it would have been
last
18...
last year was the first match of the season at Rovers, and so they came to us at Easter.
18 so was 18 when Framo went all high shot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it would have been 16 maybe?
Possibly.
14 or 16 anyway. You'll have been at that game, you'll have enjoyed the second half of that game. Tim, you would not have enjoyed the second half of that game. Let's get a bit of Easter bants going on, guys.
It was 2016, yeah.
2016. So, I mean, what do you guys remember of that one? Tim, heartbreaking game, wasn't it, for Hull KR fans?
Yeah, thinking we'd done this, 20-0 up, thinking this is looking impressive, given, been wobbling around, and then suddenly, oh, hello, and turn up. But then you thought, no, surely we're gonna bounce back at some point and just hold it steady, and just the floodgates were open and the wheels were firmly spinning out of control.
Sarah, it must have been one of the biggest comebacks in a derby of all time, the Hull derby, but certainly in terms of games you've been at, it must have been one of the most change of emotions of a game that you'll have experienced, I guess.
Yeah, so early on, it looked like Carlos had scored under the sticks, but it went up to the video ref and it was disallowed because there were 2 men in the tackle just when he took the ball off the Rovers player. And just from that point on, we didn't really look like we were going to score until, 65 minutes or something, when we discovered how to score. And it felt, it felt not like a real rugby match. You get one try and you're like, okay, maybe we can pull it back 2012, whatever. And then another try. And suddenly you start thinking, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
We could do this. When you just have that slight...
I rewatched a very similar feeling of a game this week, actually. So I rewatched the Bradford-Wigan playoff game from 2007, when Wigan had the biggest comeback in the Super League game from 24-0 down. And came back to win it 31 points to 30. We were 30 points to 4 down we were. And what I did, because they put it up on Wigan TV as a 15-minute highlight block or a full game block. So I watched the 15 minutes highlights up to about the 58th minute, 57th minute, when Mark Calderwood scored the first try of Wigan's comeback. And it was kind of like you explained it, Sarah, like that Calderwood's first try in that comeback, we were all sort of like, oh, it was a nice try, it's good that we've scored, we still kind of don't think anything's going to come of that. And then Richards nailed the conversion from the sideline and sort of a bit of noise grew, and then we scored again 5 minutes later, and the whole stand was going crazy by that point, thinking there's still 15 minutes left here with only 2 scores behind, we were going to win this, and we did. And I'm guessing you felt the sort of exactly the same. Like the first try of the comeback, at least it's not all lost. We didn't see a total whitewash, and then all of a sudden, different ball game.
Yeah, and I think it was when it went to 2012, I'm sure my dad said, we're going to do this now. And you just think, yeah, actually, you could be right. But it was funny because I'm sure it was a match at a point where we were starting to think Radford's job could be on the line.
But he's had
a feeling that you
about 7 of those.
4 years from that point.
I know.
We also had the Sky Sports showed on Sunday night this week the Paris Saint-Germain versus Sheffield Eagles first ever Super League game. Tom Andrews got in touch with a bit of a funny one. He said, typical Sky, first it was phone-in commentary, now this week's game looks like it was filmed on a potato. Corona is hitting even the big TV names budgets too. But of course it wasn't in full HD or ultra HD or anything like that, but it was an entertaining game to re-watch. I've never watched the game in full. I've got, a few DVDs of Super League's most important games, Super League's best games, that sort of thing, and obviously that's on all these DVDs, so I've seen lots of highlights of it over the years, but I've never watched the full game before. It was really entertaining. I mean, both sides were very much determined to give each other hundreds and hundreds of opportunities in the game. I don't know what the handling error count was by the end of it, but I don't know if either of you guys rewatched this last night, but I really enjoyed rewatching it. And one of the things that stuck out to me is the amount of times when there was kind of a little bit of a kind of a bit of an indiscretion maybe at the play of the ball area at the ruck. But the commentators, which were still Eddie and Steve-O, that we've heard do this millions of times since, but they didn't ask for a penalty one way or the other every single time someone had a bit of a issue at the play of the ball. It was very refreshing to watch that, and there was a lot of one-on-one tackles and not a lot of and barely any wrestle at all, because it was 15 years before 12 to 15 years before Nathan Brown and Michael Maguire got the grips onto the English game with the wrestling side of things. But yeah, it was a really entertaining watch.
Yeah, I didn't see it, but one thing I did see a lot of was comments about how good the commentary was in comparison to the more recent Eddie and Steve stuff, and yeah.
It's
how they
after they started doing those silly videos of themselves, wasn't it, that they started sending themselves up, that they lost it. But yeah,
it was kind of at that turning point of the coverage, weren't it? And probably 5 years after that, they'd got their feet under the table so much that they were the established voices in rugby league by that point, whereas it was still, an Eddie Waring, then Ray French kind of were the voices of rugby league to the TV audience until maybe around about the turn of the century, when by then we'd heard Eddie and Steve-O enough, and maybe they became caricatures of themselves a little bit. But
yeah, I wonder if that is what it is.
Yeah, still some great moments on the commentary, because I also caught the farewell shows for both Eddie and Steve-O that Sky reran over on Sunday as well, which was good stuff. I also rewatched the England against New Zealand game on Saturday on our league. That was good to rewatch. The Anfield test, where in the first half England kind of just about kept to it with a few moments of inspiration from George Williams. Then in the second half, it was Lomax and Makinson took over the two St Helens players, and there was some fantastic touches in there from Jake Connor playing in the left centre with Tommy Makinson too. That was a good game to rewatch. Another game where you kind of felt like, are they going to do it? And then they did do it, kind of encounter as well. I don't know if you guys caught any other games this week on the rewatch.
What was it that was on Thursday night? I watched some of that.
Thursday was Hull versus Wakefield. Oh, Sarah, tell us what you told us about that game.
Which bit?
Well, the very end. So
you mean the?
So you had a young man who you were trying to usher to bed, and kind of tried to tell him, oh, it was a rubbish game. Look, we're behind early. It's the end of a season game, so we probably didn't win it. Let's go to bed. And then
yeah. And he was like, oh, is this the one where Liam Finn misses that drop goal at the end? I think it is, isn't it? I was like, oh, shut up, Joshua, just go to bed. It was rubbish. It was after the cup final, so it was just all rubbish. And then Mark